Well, hello and welcome again to the Skill Work Forum. My name's Tim. I'm joined as always with my partner, Brett. And we gather here and just talk about issues, trends, just things surrounding the skilled trades in general. Primarily focused about those that are in the business that employ and use and work with skilled tradesmen. Along that vein, Brett, because of the demand that we've had with really the voice of the skilled tradesmen and issues surrounding them specifically, we've actually launched a new podcast recently. One of our colleagues here, Michael Petrowski, posts that. It's called The Proud Skilled Worker. Really excited about this. We're going to have some of our skilled tradesmen, people that are involved specifically in the skilled trades, talking to issues from their voice. So we're excited about that, and check that out. It's available on all the platforms that this podcast is on as well. So just wanted to kind of put that out there before we fail to mention it. This podcast recently, the last one, or maybe the one before, we talked about this idea of the Great Resignation or the Big Quit, which is everybody out there across all sectors are experiencing this unprecedented number of employees that are voluntarily quitting or leaving, transitioning out. So we're just seeing this mass exodus. Some say unprecedented, never before seen. So a quick review of that, just to put some numbers around this, and we'll just kind of tee it up a little bit here. Last year, from March to July, 19 million people quit their jobs in that period from March to July. And then just in September and October of last year, another almost 9 million joined the ranks there. So it's like this tremendous surge of people that are transitioning.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I mean, it's unprecedented. Obviously, we've never seen it at this level of movement inside of the workforce, and then just the overall shortage on top of that.
Yeah.
And so, there was a recent Bankrate survey that said that 55% of Americans who are employed or looking for a job said they would likely look for a new job in the next 12 months. And then even larger in the younger generations, the Gen Zers and the Millennials, it's even a higher number. I think the Gen Zers is like 77%, which is, almost all of them.
Yeah.
And then 63% of the Millennials said they plan to job hunt. I think along with just the overall shortage, Tim, and then this just fact that people are in this market are willing to move around and to look at other options, it just says that this labor shortage and this staffing challenge is just going to face huge headwinds through 2022. So I think we're going to spend the next podcast kind of digging even deeper into that and what we're seeing, but that's the reality.
Yeah, so this is going on. Again, we just recapped the numbers that back it up, and you guys don't need numbers. You're probably feeling it. So this podcast, we're really going to talk about what can we do to counter this. So what can we do about this? What can companies do to retain their talent or attract new talent? And we've talked in previous podcasts about other things that we encourage companies to do, things like, make sure your culture is on point. You're caring for your people. You're offering training programs. There's a culture of respect and dignity. There's flexibility. All those sort of things are things that are great things to do, and you ought to be embracing those. But the one tried and true that has worked throughout time, and one we wanted to focus on here in this podcast, is simply this need to increase your wages and your benefits in order to respond to this competitive labor market. So there's this exodus going on, but there's also these inflationary pressures that we're feeling on an already tight labor market, as you alluded to, Brett. So these two things together, it's like a perfect storm that's going to require you to take some not only creative, but some traditional measures, including wages and benefits.
If you think about it as a business leader that you are, is you're already having to be more competitive with your wages and your benefits and some of the other things that we talk about, flexibility and whatnot, specifically today, wages and benefits, you're already having to increase that. The challenge is right now, these aren't our numbers, these are the numbers. Inflation is up 7%. It's the largest increase, that we've seen in 40 years or something on that magnitude. I think they're dropping the new numbers. The January numbers dropped today, and those are expected to be somewhere north of 7%. So the trend is not going in the right direction. The impact of that is if you've already increased your wages from, let's just make up something and say from $22 to $25 to recognize the demand. Now that individual that you're paying $25 at 7% inflation, when he's or she's buying milk and gas and paying for daycare or whatever the case may be, that 25 is now worth, what, 23?
Yeah. So you basically are treading water at best if you do a traditional raise.
Yep. And so, they I think one of the things we looked at, Tim, it said that while this 7+% inflation impact, that still the largest impact on the need to increase wages, even with the inflation, is just the overall labor shortage. It's a fight for talent.
Yeah, so traditionally, inflation is one of the main drivers for wage increase, right? That's a no-brainer. But what we're seeing in all these responses, and we'll give you some numbers here, but the tight labor market, especially where we're talking in the skilled trades, that is far outweighing even the inflationary pressures as factors for increasing wages. And we know, we've talked about the labor shortages are going to continue through 22. So again, as we mentioned, there's this perfect storm driving wages for new hires and workers in the world we live in the blue collar and skilled trades sectors. So in response, as again, we're looking for what can we do. And specifically today, we're going to talk about the need to increase your wages and benefits to not only keep pace with this, but to be in a competitive market, get out ahead of your competition, because it is going to be a very competitive market. So some more metrics, just some statistics to help frame this discussion a little bit. Looked at an article that was out there on CNBC, and they pulled together information from different studies. And some of the studies state that some of these metrics, that more than half of HR leaders, human resource leaders across the U.S. said their companies expect an average merit increase of more than 5%. So traditionally, it's like 3%. So they're expecting 5%. And then in addition to that, an overall 3.9, roughly 4% jump in wages for new hires. So there's these both dual, your existing employees, but also new hires. They're seeing somewhere in the order of 4 to 5% increase along both sectors. In addition to wages, cash bonuses are also on the rise. 70% of those that responded to this study said they were increasing both the availability and the size of both hiring and retention bonuses. So this is going on, and it ties back to this big quit that we see going on.
Yeah, well, I think the as a business leader, you just can't. You got to try to get ahead of it, with a variety of tools. And one of these is, as we're seeing the big quit, the reality, the numbers show, I think there was a study done, I'm not sure who the Atlanta Federal Reserve is, but they did a study specifically that just basically said that when people leave from one job to another, they're seeing a higher increase. So basically, the reality is people are doing more to attract their talent than to keep their talent. And so they need to, we always, my dad, who we've talked about before and was in the skilled labor space, we would lose a really good maintenance individual. He'd go somewhere else to make more money. This was years ago, not now. And so it wasn't as crazy then. But when they would leave, then we would always offer him more money to come back. And he always thought that was such a, why did we just recognize that they were talented when we had them in the first place? But there's always kind of that little bit of I don't want to give any more than I have to kind of a thing. Until they go away, then you realize I need them back.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about this dynamic that you see, that the focus for retention, is there, but there's such a demand for filling the gap in a tight labor market that you tend to put too much focus on hiring and, the things that we need to bring in new people. And there's a danger in that, and something that we've looked at here. Maybe you're aware of this term. Some HR people, compensation people are familiar with this idea known as pay or wage compression. So if you think about the spectrum of the wages that you pay out there, most of our companies, we like to have a spectrum of wages from new hires to those that have been with you a while, depending on experience and skills. So you have a spread of what you pay in wages and salary. Well, the dynamics that we're facing right now, it causes this phenomenon called wage or salary compression, which you accelerate the amount that you're paying your new hires, your entry level, if you will, new employees. You pay them more, which closes a gap and compresses what's normally been a spectrum, a phased approach to your wages. So wage compression happens when these employees, regardless of their experience or skill set or how long they've been there, what you're paying them can get very close. As a matter of fact, you can even begin to pay new hires with less experience, less skill, more than those people you've been there. So not only is it compressed, sometimes it actually gets upside down. And when that happens, it really is a function of you're trying to solve a today problem. You're putting out a fire without thinking about the collateral damage of what that's going to happen, what the impact is going to be to the rest of your organization. Because people talk, about what they make. It's going to become very well known what new guys make. It's almost one of the first things that gets talked about. So your new hires are coming in at compensation levels higher than or equal to longtime employees. And what does that cause in your experience, Brett, when that happens? Like, you bring in these guys that are making as much as a guy that you've had for 5 years.
Well, it just creates this, this crazy cycle process. Tim, we talk about it here and in our, environment, but you really got to look at your wages and your compensation across the entire organization. If you think about it, there's a few things that are driving, in the sectors that we work in, which is more the manufacturing, industrial, some of the other. Energy is another one that's seeing a big impact of this huge demand and this huge need. Well, if you think about it, especially in industrial manufacturing, what do we have? We hear about it all the time. Supply is low, so the pressure to get more supply out, because we're behind, the shelves are empty, so we got to get them filled back up. So there's huge demand for supply. There's everything we're talking about here. There's a reduced labor, not just in the skilled side, but every place. And so naturally, that's going to drive wages up. So across your whole system. So what Tim's referring to in this compression is that if your frontline worker is now making more money, let's just be honest, that skill, there's always been a certain gap of this skilled is worth this. And when that gap closes and you don't recognize it over here, then you start to, so it's going to have a cost impact across your whole system. Otherwise, you get into what we refer to as the crazy cycle, where you don't recognize your experienced talent, and they get frustrated, they leave. You have to bring in new talent that's probably less qualified. You pay them more, and then that just frustrates you, and this thing just starts to spin.
Yeah, and you end up lowering the bar. You're paying more wages for less experienced and you're more experienced people because the demand is out there. Believe me, we've said this before. They are getting opportunities and offers all the time. So what we're saying, the remedy is you can't leave your current employees behind in your haste and zeal and necessary efforts to bring in new people. You can't do that because the impact, collateral damage of wage compression is significant and long-lasting. So as you continue to increase the bar on those folks that you're bringing in and attracting, you have to. It's like an accordion. You have to make sure that you're not compressing it. You got to pull on this side, which means higher costs. You got to increase wages and benefits for the people that you have or you're going to exacerbate your problem. That's why we want to bring in this idea of wage compression. I think it's very significant. So in addition to wages, we talk about wage and benefits together. Wages are, very clearly wages and salaries of what you get paid. For in our world, typically hourly, but sometimes a salary. Everybody understands what that is. But according to another survey, we pull this information together. This is from Credit Karma, and they went out to 1,000 people in our industry and asked them a series of questions. So in addition to the fact that all these Americans that are out there are going to explore new job opportunities, part of the reason was, hey, I'm not appreciated, I'm not getting paid enough, but nearly a quarter of the respondents said that it's not wages, it's not respect, it's I'm looking for better benefits. Mm-hmm. So in addition to wages, you need to be looking at benefits as well. These are your two levers that you can use to be able to attract and retain good employees. So things like sign-on bonuses, equity in the company, shareholders, share equities, cash retention, recognition enhancements. We're going to talk about some of them, but all these things. What are your wages? What are your benefits? These are dual levers that you need to explore.
Yeah, you don't want to, it's not all wages. Like you said, I know a lot of individuals who stay at a company, maybe they've got similar to like wages, but they've got some other benefits. Now, and they don't have to be just, when we think of benefits, we typically think health insurance, which we're going to talk about here in a second. But there's other things too, flexible PTO, culture, there's lots of other things that obviously have an impact. But specifically, and we're not health insurance benefit experts, but, you do need to explore those options. Obviously, you probably have individuals in your organization that look at this, but I think we got to go back and really, health insurance over the last 10, 15 years, we've talked about it on here. I ran a food manufacturing company for many years, and as insurance costs went up and up and up, to be honest with you, it really just became more about trying to manage those costs. We kind of lost sight of what we were offering.
Yeah.
It was like this just keeps costing more and more and more every year. It never went down, and we kind of got focused more on that. And now I think in this environment we may have to go back and look at that. It does, obviously, all these things come with a cost: increased wages, increased benefits. They're not free, and so they're going to impact those pieces, but it's the market that we're in today. So, but there are things, flexible healthcare options. So, in our company, for example, we offer 3 different, you got your choice, higher end, middle, kind of more of a catastrophic plan based on what you want. So you got to give individuals options, because obviously the higher the deductibles, of course, the lower the cost to the employee. Which is what they're looking at. So those plan options, things like, health savings accounts, to offer those to your employees. I'm not going to go into the details of a health savings account. Just leave it to say, obviously, it's a benefit that a lot of companies, are starting to offer or have been offering, that obviously allows an employee, to take out, pre-tax dollars, something they know they're going to have done next year anyhow. And so it's a good benefit.
On the HSA, which I think is really one of the, we don't give our government a lot of props very often, but that's one that actually makes a lot of sense. And one of the things that, that I thought we would even take a look at is that incentivize making contributions to employees' HSAs based on their making healthy choices, like getting involved in a fitness, program, or physicals or weight loss. So, that's why health insurance is so high, because we got a lot of people that are unhealthy, right?
Yeah.
So incentivizing employees to do healthy things, which means, hey, we care about you. And when you do those things, we will actually, just like adding to a 401k, we're going to add to your HSA. And all these things are a cost. But if you flip the mindset, we've said this before, it's really an investment.
Yeah. You're investing, like you said, finding talent, making sure you're properly staffed, your health, all the, wages and these types of things, what Tim's referring to here, these EAPs, these employee assistance programs. all of these are really an investment in your people, which is an investment in your organization to keep it healthy. But yeah, I mean, obviously near and dear to my heart, I probably go a little overboard on. I tease people. I think I'm trying to live forever, and so I'm probably not going to. But very conscious of eating healthy and working out and trying to make the right choices and that kind of thing. Obviously, the more we can do to help people in that area, clearly it matters. And so,
yeah, another one of those EAPs you mentioned, Brett. A lot of companies are, because hey, we've talked about the stress over the last couple of years. Depression is on the rise. Sadly, things like suicide, marital issues, financial issues. So more and more companies, as an added benefit, are providing opportunity and benefits to employees to do those sort of things. So looking at those sort of things, it attracts people and it keeps your employees. So look at your benefit package. Other things like, gym memberships. We offer here a gym membership to our employees. We pay the bulk of it. Why? We care about them. We think being healthy is a good thing, and it's good for mental attitude and everything. So that's one you can do. Child care assistance is a big deal. I mean, we know a lot of people that are debating the cost of child care, and I'm past that point. We have grandchildren, but it's insane to me when I hear what people are having to pay for child care. And being able to help your employees, especially when schools can shut down on a moment's notice, being there to provide child care assistance. Brett mentioned flexible work schedules, job sharing. We've introduced that here. We have job sharing where two employees share one position. That's worked out very well. Remote work, if it's feasible, that's also another option, allowing your people to work remotely or a little bit more flexible with their PTO. And the other thing that we do here is financial counseling. Get them connected with financial counselors to help them get a budget, to help them with their bills, to help them manage their finances. So all of these benefits are great things that you can do in addition to wages to address this issue of demand, supply issues with skilled trades, and inflationary pressures.
Yeah, no, for sure. On that financial piece, obviously there's some great tools out there. We're both big proponents of Dave Ramsey and what he does, and he's got a great tool called Smart Money. That's an app. If you don't want to go through all the way through financial piece, but Smart Money,
it's good stuff.
Smart Money is a great tool, and I think it matters to people. So, it's kind of I'm reminded, Tim, of a couple things. One that probably goes all the way back to when we were getting ready to start Skill Work, that really resonated with me, and I'm reminded of it. My old maintenance manager, you mentioned earlier about you're losing your talent, you lower the bar, is this crazy cycle chase. And my old maintenance manager, I'll shout out to Aaron Long, and so he told me that exact story. He said, what used to be 15 maintenance guys, 10, 11, 12 of them, pretty talented, not pretty talented, highly talented, always training 3 or 4. He said, now we just keep lowering the bar. Now we have 20 plus and only about 10 of them. So you really, when you start to look at the cost impact of those decisions to not retain and invest in your talent and find your talent, I think is important. Another one I thought of, Tim, as we were doing this was early on at Skill Work here. I was meeting with a client, didn't end up becoming a client. Probably a good thing. And so not every client's the one you want. And so, but, or there's not one you can help. Maybe that's a better way to say it. And
we want them all, but you can't help them all.
So, but they were chasing, they were chasing the market. They were offering sign-on bonuses. They were trying to take people from their competition. They were in the auto mechanic world, and they were trying to take people from the guy across town, and they were paying them a bonus. And the part I think they were missing was the guy that's already there, who's been there with you for 10 years. you're not offering him a bonus. You're not offering him anything. You're giving all these things, and they were on the crazy cycle and just couldn't quite figure out how to get off of it. It's that type of thing. So anyhow, just as we're seeing everything that's happening, getting a handle on these impacts, I think is
yeah. I mean, I'm a history guy, so Ben Franklin famously said, "Don't be penny wise and pound foolish."
Yeah.
And by pound, he's talking about the currency,
Yeah.
a dollar. Don't be penny wise and dollar foolish. So sometimes we focus so much on the dollar of the day, we're being foolish with the bigger picture. So it's crucial that to respond to these very real things going on, you need to be creative with your pay increases in a competitive market. Take a look at that pay compression. If you're not familiar with that term, talk to your comp person, talk to your HR person, get your financial people in there and say, I want to take a look at the spectrum of what we're paying here and make sure that you're being careful to monitor that. So, and then we talked about benefits. Don't forget about benefits as well. So hopefully, this provided, sometimes we just tell you here's a headwind, but hopefully today we gave you some insights, some things for you to think about, to noodle on a little bit as we all in this together, trying to do the best we can to get through some of the challenges that we're facing. So thank you for joining us here on the Skill Work Forum. I want to again remind you, check out our new podcast that we're very proud of. We think it's going to really respond to a demand. It's going to give a voice to the men and women who keep America running, repair it, install it, troubleshoot it. It's going to be their voice. We're very excited. We've got, I guess, episode? We got an initial episode out there and some new ones coming, so take a look at that. Also, I just also want to mention that we are in partnership with a show on the Pursuit channel called Texas Boys Outdoors. We love these guys with their mission. They really focus on providing opportunities to get in the outdoors for veterans, first responders, people that are challenged with handicaps, physically, mentally, and they just mesh with our core values so well. So we are proud to be partnered with them, and we just want to give a shout out. Go check them out on the Pursuit channel, Texas Boys Outdoors. Great guys, great show. You'll enjoy it. Until next time, thank you for joining us here on the Skill Work Forum.